So, Cocaine Bear was directed by Elizabeth Banks and stars a whole bunch of people, including Kerry Russell, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Alden Ehrenreich, Margot Martindale, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., the late great Ray Liotta. And when a bunch of cocaine is thrown from a plane, it lands in the mountains, and a bear winds up getting into it. And the bear becomes really crazy. The bear starts going on a murderous rampage. So when various people just start descending on the forest, the bear encounters them, and all these really weird, gruesome, over the top, ridiculous, insane, stupid things just happen to these people. So this was a movie that, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really looking forward to it. The premise of it sounded insane, but I also looked into it, and it is inspired by a real life event, and I was also kind of worried going into this because, like, looking into the actual event that happened and how the movie is, I'm just kind of thinking, like, how can you turn something like this that actually happened and turn it into a comedy like this? And it just kind of just seemed absolutely insane, absolutely ridiculous, and maybe even a bit insensitive. But I saw the movie, and it was stupid, it was insane, it was ridiculous, and honestly, I'm not complaining about it because that's kind of what I expected this movie to be. It was insane, crazy, ridiculous, stupid, and I enjoyed almost every minute of it. So, what works? Well, the acting, for the most part, is pretty good. I don't think anyone gives a bad performance in this movie, but some of the standouts for me include O'Shea Jackson Jr. and Alden Ehrenreich. I really liked them together. I thought they did a really good job together. They bounced off each other pretty well. Also, Aaron Holiday, he's kind of a newcomer. He's just thrown into the mix with them as well, and he does a really good job too. Also, Christian Convery, I thought he did a really good job. He was really funny. I thought while watching it, I didn't recognize him at first. But it's like, I feel like I've seen that actor before somewhere. And then I looked him up, and he's actually the actor on Sweet Tooth. He was really good there. And he's really funny here. Brooklyn Prince is also really good in this movie, too. She was in the Florida Project. She doesn't really have a whole lot to do in this movie, but for her performance, she did good. Character actress Margot Martindale also appears in this movie, and her character is really funny, too. Again, doesn't do a whole lot in the movie, but I thought she did a really good job. Like, a lot of the actors in this movie are just surprisingly bringing their A game. Like, they're just bringing it into they're just giving themselves up to the campiness of this movie, the ridiculousness of it, and it does really work. And also Matthew Rhys also has a brief appearance in this movie. I won't explain what he does, but his character, even though he doesn't really do much, it's absolutely hilarious to me. But honestly, I laughed throughout this entire movie. I think almost every scene I laughed at least once, so that's better than most comedies these days to me. So the fact that I laugh more than I normally do, I'll give it a pass. And I do like the 80s aesthetic. Like, it's a little cheesy, it's a little ridiculous, it's just over the top, and I feel like it's just giving into that because obviously the movie takes place in 1985, along with the music and the blend of like various genres like comedy and horror. Even though personally, I kind of didn't view it as a horror movie, I kind of viewed it more as like a comedy thriller, but it was definitely leaning more towards comedy. But I still think it worked overall. It didn't like feel like one genre. It just felt like it was just kind of trying to blend as much as it could, and it was effective. And honestly, this movie knows what it wants to be. It's ridiculous, it's over the top, it's 90 minutes long with credits, it's ridiculous, it's insane, and I felt like it just didn't really need to do anything else, and for that, I'll give it a pass. Was there anything about this movie I didn't care for? Well, there are a few too many storylines in this movie. It's kind of like Traffic. It's both about drugs, and they have so many characters intersecting at one point. Like Isaiah Whitlock Jr., he's good for his performance. He does a really smart thing in the second act of the movie that I thought was both brilliantly dumb, but like, that's actually pretty smart at the same time. His character kind of disappears for a bit. Like, he disappears for like 20 minutes, and when he came back, I'm like, oh, right, he was in this movie too. Same thing with Kerry Russell in this movie. Her character disappears for a brief time, and her storyline just goes nowhere at first, but then she does come back, and it's like, oh, right, I forgot she was in this movie too. I feel like if they kind of cut down on the characters, it would have been a little bit better. And honestly, even though it's a blast to watch, I kind of wish it was a little bit more violent and more over the top. Like, I wish it was more like Violent Night in ways like it's creative with its action at times. Well, mostly creative. But I still had fun with this, and also some of the CGI just didn't work for me. Now, obviously, they didn't use a real bear for this movie, which, good thing they didn't, but the CGI definitely doesn't look rendered properly. Like, there are some times where it's like, it actually looks really good, but there are some times where it actually looks really bad. I'm just like, I don't know if it's really because of the whole cheesiness of the movie, like maybe the visuals don't look so great because, like, admittedly in a lot of 80s movies, some of the visuals don't look great or kind of look terrible by today's comparisons, but overall, this movie is a lot of fun. The acting's great. I laughed throughout it. It does have a great aesthetic to it, particularly with the 80s, and it knows what it wants to be. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Even though I kind of wish that the characters had a little bit more to do and the storylines were a little bit tighter, and maybe they could have cut some out and wish it was a little bit more violent, I still had fun with this. I would definitely recommend this. I would give Cocaine Bear 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what is the most ridiculously fun movie? What's the last ridiculously fun movie that you watch? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.